In a distant corner of the galaxy, on a lonely colony world called Varela 9, stood a giant dome of glass and steel. The people of that colony called it the Silent Vault. Inside that dome was something no one dared to touch, something that had been locked away for more than 100 years. A creature so massive and strange that it looked like it didn't belong to this universe. It was not just an animal. It was a legend trapped in metal and glass. Its scales were dark as night, covered in dust, almost turning gray from the years of stillness. Its wings were folded close to its body, broken in some places, and heavy chains held it down from neck to tail. The creature's eyes were closed, dull, lifeless, like glowing stones that had lost their light long ago. It never moved, never spoke, never roared. The scientists of the colony called it Project Emberwing, a failed experiment from a forgotten war. The government said it was dangerous, that it once burned entire ships in seconds. But that was a long time ago, and now it was nothing more than a body with a heartbeat so faint that only the machines could detect it. Every few months, the colony schools brought children to visit the research dome. The teachers said it was part of their history education. To the children, it was more like a trip to the zoo, only this creature never moved. They laughed, joked, and took hollow pictures beside the thick glass walls. Some even threw little pebbles against the barrier, hoping to see it blink. But it didn't. Everyone said the same thing. It's dead. Just a fossil of the past. But one boy, standing at the back of the group, didn't laugh. His name was Eli, a quiet, curious child with messy hair and eyes that always seemed to notice things others missed. He didn't talk much, but he listened. And that day, as the other children played and mocked the silent alien beast, Eli stood still, staring at it through the foggy glass. Something felt wrong. The air around the chamber seemed alive. There was a faint vibration, like the sound of a deep hum buried beneath the walls. It was so soft that no one else noticed it. But Eli did. His fingers pressed against the cold glass, and the humming grew stronger. Not loud, but clear, like a whisper trying to find a voice. The teacher's voice echoed from behind. "Come along, Eli. Don't stay too close. That thing hasn't moved in years." But he didn't listen. His eyes caught something strange. Right below the beast's neck, hidden beneath layers of dust and rust, there were faint glowing marks. He rubbed the glass gently to clear the view. The marks looked like letters, no symbols, carved directly into the creature's scales. And the symbols were not dead. They shimmered, ever so slightly, like fire trapped beneath the skin. He whispered softly, "What are you?" No answer. But for a second, he thought he saw the creature's chest move. A slow, deep breath that made the dust rise and fall. He blinked. Maybe it was his imagination. The other kids were already leaving, laughing and shouting. The teacher called again, "Eli, we're going back now." Eli stepped back reluctantly, taking one last look at the silent creature. Its eyes were still closed, its body still bound. Yet the air carried something that felt almost like a heartbeat beneath the silence. That night, long after the trip ended, Eli couldn't sleep. The image of the beast stayed in his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing letters, like tiny flames moving under scales of darkness. He even tried to draw them on a piece of paper, but the shapes didn't make sense. They didn't belong to any known language. His mother noticed his quiet mood. "Eli, you're thinking too much again. It's just an old creature from before our time. Don't worry about it." But Eli couldn't forget the hum. That soft, low sound he felt when he touched the glass. It wasn't just noise. It was calling. 2 nights later, while the colony slept under the pale moons of Varela, Eli slipped out of his small apartment. He wrapped his jacket around himself and walked toward the dome. The streets were empty, the lamps glowing dim blue in the cold night air. He knew it was wrong, but curiosity pulled him stronger than fear. When he reached the research dome, the guards were missing, maybe asleep inside their small post. The security lights flashed red once every few seconds. Eli sneaked through a side door he had seen during the school trip. The metal panels hissed softly as they opened, and he stepped inside. The dome was dark and silent, except for the soft hum of machines. The air smelled like old metal and dust. In the middle of that giant room stood the glass chamber, and inside, the beast. Still unmoving. Still silent. Eli walked closer, his small steps echoing on the floor. The glass walls glowed faintly from the lights beneath. The glowing letters were clearer now. He could see the full pattern. They ran across the beast's neck, down its chest, and along its left wing. The words looked like fire frozen in time. He pressed his hand on the glass again. The humming returned, stronger now, deeper, like the ground itself was breathing. Suddenly, he heard something inside his head. Not through his ears, but inside his mind. A whisper, broken and faint, like a voice buried in wind. "Can you hear me?" Eli gasped and stepped back. His heart raced. He looked around, but the dome was empty. He pressed his hand again. Who are you?" he whispered. The air trembled. The fire under the scales brightened for a brief second. Then, in the deepest silence, a slow rumble rose from inside the chamber, so low it made the floor shake slightly. Eli froze. The creature's eyes opened. Two golden slits, glowing faintly like twin suns behind smoke. For a heartbeat, the entire world felt still. The alarms didn't go off. The machines didn't move. It was just Eli and the beast, locked in a gaze that felt ancient, older than time itself. And then, before fear could reach him, something deep inside the creature's chest flickered. Just once. A small spark of orange light glowed beneath its ribs, fading quickly, but Eli saw it. The first sign of life in over a century. He whispered, trembling, "You're alive." The eyes blinked once, slow and heavy, then closed again. The hum stopped. The silence returned. Eli stepped back, heart pounding, unsure if what he saw was real. But he knew one thing. The beast was not dead. It was waiting, and somehow it had heard him. The next morning, the colony of Varela woke up as usual. The sky had a pale red hue, and the towers of metal shimmered under the twin suns. For most people, it was just another day. But for Eli, it felt different. He couldn't forget the creature's golden eyes, the way they had opened and stared right into him. All day in school, he barely spoke. The teacher's words sounded distant, like echoes from another world. The only thing he could hear was that deep humming sound still faintly ringing inside his mind. At lunch, his friends laughed and played around him, but he didn't join. He kept drawing those glowing symbols again and again on his notebook, trying to make sense of them. They felt familiar somehow, even though he had never seen anything like them before. One of his classmates peeked at his notebook and snorted. "What's that, Eli?" Still thinking about that dumb beast. Eli didn't answer. He just closed his book and stared out the window. When night came again, the voice in his head returned, soft, broken, almost like a dream. "Child of light, why did you wake me?" Eli sat up in bed, heart racing. The room was quiet, but the voice was clear, echoing gently inside his skull. He whispered, "Who are you? What do you mean, wake you?" No answer came, only the faint hum again, deep and slow, like the heartbeat of something enormous. He felt it pulling him, calling him back to the dome. He tried to fight the urge, but he couldn't. Something deep inside told him that if he didn't go now, he might never hear the voice again. So once more Eli slipped out into the cold night. The streets were quiet, the air filled with the low whine of power lines. He walked quickly, his small shadow stretching long under the street lamps. When he reached the research dome, everything was still. He crept through the same side door he had used before. Inside, the lights flickered softly. The beast was there, silent as before, but this time, the marks on its scales were glowing faintly again, as if waiting for him. Eli stepped closer. "I came back," he whispered. The humming returned immediately, deep and low, vibrating through the floor. He felt it in his chest. Then the voice came again, this time clearer. "The fire sleeps. Speak the words, and I will remember." Eli blinked. The words. He stared at the symbols glowing on the beast's scales. Slowly, he began to copy the shapes with his finger in the air. The marks pulsed brighter each time he traced one. Without realizing it, he began to speak them out loud. The words didn't belong to any human tongue. They were sharp, heavy, and strange, like thunder broken into syllables. As soon as he finished, the entire dome shuddered. Alarms began to flash red. The glass walls around the creature cracked with a deep, echoing sound. Eli jumped back, terrified. The voice inside his head grew stronger, almost like a roar. "I remember." The beast's chest rose for the first time in centuries. Air rushed out of its nostrils, carrying dust like smoke. The glowing symbols burst into flames for a moment and then turned golden. Outside, sirens screamed through the colony. Scientists and guards rushed toward the dome, shouting and activating defense systems. Inside, the creature opened its eyes again, fully burning gold and alive. It looked straight at Eli, and this time, there was no fear in its gaze. There was awareness. Eli couldn't move. His legs shook. His heart pounded like a drum. The voice filled his mind again, no longer weak, now powerful, ancient, and filled with emotion. "You carry the blood of the Makers. The fire knows you." I don't understand," Eli stammered. "I just wanted to help you. Everyone said you were dead." The beast blinked slowly, the light in its chest growing stronger. The ground trembled under its weight. "Dead? No. Waiting. I waited for the call, for the voice that could speak the old tongue." The doors burst open behind Eli. Scientists in white coats and armored guards rushed in, shouting orders. "Get away from it! Move, boy!" one of them yelled. Another screamed, "It's waking up! Containment fields failing." The beast's chains began to vibrate violently, glowing with heat. Sparks flew from the metal. The scientists panicked, pressing buttons on their consoles. But the containment field collapsed with a sound like shattering glass. The creature roared. It wasn't just a sound. It was a wave that made the air ripple, made everyone fall to their knees. Windows across the facility cracked. Lights exploded. Eli covered his ears, but the voice still spoke directly into his head. "Do not fear me, child of light. You have freed me from silence." The guards opened fire with stun rifles. Blue energy bolts hit the beast's body, but instead of burning, they disappeared, turning into glowing sparks that floated upward like fireflies. The head scientist shouted, "It's absorbing the energy. Everyone out." But Eli didn't move. His eyes were locked with the creature's. The golden light from its eyes filled the dome, washing over everything like dawn breaking through night. Then, suddenly, the beast lowered its massive head down to Eli's level. Its breath was warm and smelled of smoke and iron. "You spoke the words of fire," it said softly, the voice like rolling thunder. "Now the bond is made." Eli reached out slowly and touched the glass, but the glass wasn't there anymore. It had melted away. His small hand touched the smooth, warm scale of the creature's nose. The whole room fell silent. Even the alarms stopped. The scientists froze in disbelief. The beast, once called Project Emberwing, knelt before a human child. A deep glow spread from the place where Eli touched it, running through the creature's body like veins of light. The chains broke one by one, falling to the ground with loud metallic crashes. Eli whispered, "You're free." The creature's wings twitched for the first time, unfolding slightly, revealing long tears and scars. It was weak but alive in a way no one thought possible. Outside, the colony's defense systems began to power up. Military ships flew toward the dome, ready to destroy anything that moved. But inside, Eli stood alone with the awakening of something ancient, something powerful, yet gentle toward him. The beast lifted its head again, staring up through the glass ceiling toward the stars. "Long have I slept," it said in a voice that made the air tremble. "But the fire remembers its promise." The words meant nothing to the scientists, but to Eli they felt like the start of something bigger, something the galaxy had forgotten. As the creature's eyes dimmed slightly, it looked back at the boy. "Tomorrow they will come for me. But remember this, child. The fire burns brighter when it is shared." And before Eli could ask what that meant, The alarm screamed again. Louder this time, red lights flashing across the dome. Soldiers were coming. The boy took one last look at the beast, the silent alien that was silent no more, and whispered, "I'll come back, I promise." The creature blinked once, slow and calm, as if saying, "I will wait." The next day, the colony was in chaos. The alarms from the research dome had echoed across every street and tower of Varela 9. People whispered rumors. Some said a creature had escaped. Others said the dome had exploded. The government tried to calm the panic, but fear moved faster than truth. Eli stayed in his room, watching from the window as military vehicles flew toward the research site. His mother was yelling at the news screen, worried, trying to reach someone at her job. But Eli wasn't listening. His heart still pounded with the memory of the night before. The voice, the fire, the beast's golden eyes. He whispered to himself, it wasn't dangerous. It didn't want to hurt anyone. But deep down, he knew the adults would never believe that. To them, Emberwing was a monster, a weapon from a forgotten age. Later that afternoon, Eli snuck out again. He walked quickly, blending into the noise of the busy streets. Soldiers guarded every road near the research dome, but Eli knew another way, through the service tunnels under the colony. The tunnels were dark and filled with old pipes that hissed softly. The air smelled like oil and rust. Eli crawled through until he reached a hatch that led into the lower levels of the dome. When he pushed it open, smoke and dust filled his face. The place looked destroyed. Shattered glass everywhere, scorch marks on the walls, sparks falling from broken machines. The massive glass chamber was gone. In its place, huge claw marks were carved into the metal floor. The creature was gone. Eli's chest tightened. He called out softly, "Emberwing." At first, there was no sound, only the soft hum of damaged systems. Then, a faint breath, deep and heavy, echoed from the shadows. He turned slowly. At the far end of the dome, behind a pile of collapsed beams, two golden eyes glowed in the darkness. The beast was still there. It had not escaped. It was hurt. One wing was torn, and its scales were cracked and burned. But even in pain, its presence filled the air with warmth and power. Eli ran closer, stepping over broken glass. "You're hurt," he said softly. The voice answered in his mind, weaker now but calm. "Pain is nothing to me. I have felt it for centuries. The world has changed, but the promise remains." Eli touched the edge of its wing gently. "They're coming to destroy you." "Yes," the voice replied. "They fear what they do not understand." Footsteps echoed from outside, soldiers shouting commands. The metallic click of rifles filled the air. Eli panicked. "You have to hide." The creature's eyes flickered, and for a moment, Eli saw sadness in them. A deep, ancient sorrow. "I do not hide, child. I was born from fire, and fire does not run." The dome doors exploded open. A wave of soldiers entered, aiming their weapons. Lights from their drones filled the entire hall. "Target in sight," a commander shouted. "All units, open fire." Blue energy bolts flew through the air. They struck the creature's body, but instead of burning, the energy twisted and vanished, turning into bright orange sparks. Each spark floated upward, joining the glowing runes on Emberwing's scales. Eli covered his head, shouting, "Stop! You'll hurt him." No one listened. The creature stood up slowly, its wings spreading wide despite the damage. The fire beneath its scales grew brighter, brighter than the lights of the colony itself. Its voice thundered across the dome, shaking every wall. "Enough!" The energy from its body exploded outward like a wave. The soldiers were thrown back, their weapons shorting out instantly. The walls glowed red with heat. The sound was like a storm roaring through metal. Then silence. Only the sound of soft breathing, the beast's, heavy but calm. Eli stood frozen, eyes wide. "You saved me," he whispered. Emberwing turned its head toward him. "I saved us. You and I are bound now. I can feel your mind, your fear, your kindness." Eli stepped closer. "What are you? Why me?" "You spoke the words," said the creature. You awaken the code. I was created to serve the voice of the makers, and their voice lives in you. The makers, Eli repeated. The ones who built the stars into ships. The ones who taught fire to fly. Humans long ago before the dark wars. You are their blood, Eli. You carry what they lost. The boy stared in disbelief. You mean, my people built you? Yes, and when they vanished, I waited. I waited for a voice to call me again. Centuries passed. Worlds fell. But I did not sleep completely. I dreamed. And in every dream, I saw your face. Eli felt a strange warmth in his chest. Not fear, but connection. Like he was standing before something both alive and ancient, yet somehow familiar. Suddenly, another explosion rocked the ground. The outer walls of the dome trembled. A deep, mechanical rumble filled the air. The sound of battle tanks approaching. Through the shattered glass, Eli saw huge ships hovering outside, charging their plasma cannons. The government had decided to end this once and for all. Emberwing looked toward the sky. The fire in its chest grew brighter again. They will destroy everything, even you. Eli shook his head. No, please, don't fight them. They'll see you as a threat. I am what I was made to be, the creature said, its voice both proud and sad. A guardian, and guardians protect. The ships outside fired. Beams of blue plasma hit the dome. The blast tore through the metal, but the energy didn't reach Eli, because Emberwing moved in front of him, spreading its wings like a shield. The light hit the creature's body, and for a second, the entire sky turned white. When the light faded, Emberwing still stood, unmoved. Smoke curled from its wings. The scales glowed like molten gold. The soldiers stared in disbelief. Eli whispered, "You're indestructible." "No," said the creature, lowering its head slightly. "Just tired of dying." It looked at Eli one last time before spreading its wings wider. "Close your eyes, child." Eli obeyed. The air roared with sound. A storm of heat, light, and power. The ground shook as the beast unleashed a single breath of fire that stretched across the sky, cutting through the warships like paper. Flames turned the night into dawn. When Eli opened his eyes again, the battlefield was silent. The sky glowed orange with drifting embers. The soldiers had fled. Only the sound of burning metal remained. Emberwing stood tall, its eyes glowing faintly, but its body trembling from exhaustion. Eli ran to its side. "You're hurt again. Every flame must fade," the creature whispered. But from ashes, fire returns stronger. It slowly knelt down, folding its wings around Eli protectively. The boy rested his hand on its chest, feeling the steady thump of its heart. Outside, the colony's communication towers crackled with broken messages. The people had seen everything. They now knew the silent beast had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The fires from the battle had finally faded, leaving the sky of Varela, 9 painted in soft orange and gray smoke. Broken ships floated above the colony like dying stars. The people who had once mocked the silent creature now whispered its name in fear and wonder. But inside the ruined dome, there was only silence. The kind of silence that comes after something impossible happens. Eli sat beside Emberwing, the massive alien beast who had once been nothing more than a dusty relic in a glass cage. Now, its body glowed faintly with golden cracks of light, like veins filled with molten fire. His breathing was slow but steady. Eli had never felt so small, and yet, for the first time in his life, he felt important, like he had been chosen for something he didn't yet understand. He placed his hand gently on the creature's warm scales. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. The creature's golden eyes opened slightly, calm and ancient. "My body weakens," the voice echoed in Eli's mind. "But the fire remembers. And through you, I can see again." Eli frowned. "See what?" The beast's chest glowed brighter. The air shimmered around them. The smell of smoke faded, replaced by the scent of rain and metal. The world around Eli blurred, melting into light. He gasped. Suddenly, he was standing on a different world, or maybe inside a memory. The sky was filled with silver ships flying in formation. The ground trembled with the sound of engines, but the people there were not afraid. Tall humans in white armor stood beside dragons, not beasts but partners. Dragons of light, flame, crystal, and shadow. Each moved like a living storm, their eyes burning with the same gold fire as Emberwing's. Eli stared in awe. This is Earth? No, Emberwing's voice replied gently. This was the world of the Makers, your ancestors. They built wonders beyond the stars. Humans and dragons were one, mind to mind, heart to heart. Together, they kept balance in the galaxy. Eli turned slowly, watching as humans touched the dragon's wings, whispering words that made runes glow in the air. It was beautiful, peaceful. Then the light darkened. The scene changed. The same dragons now roared in pain, chained by strange machines. The humans were gone, replaced by tall, cold figures of metal and glass, their faces expressionless. Armies of alien soldiers marched under dark skies. Cities burned. Worlds cracked apart. What happened? Eli cried. The Makers vanished, the voice said sadly. Some say they fled into another dimension. Others believe they destroyed themselves. Without them, the balance broke. The machines they built turned against life. I was created to protect them. But when they were gone, there was no one left to protect. Eli watched as the memory showed Emberwing. Younger, brighter, wings glowing like sunlight. The dragon fought against the machines, defending children and families as they ran toward giant starships. But one by one, those ships exploded in the sky. I failed them, Emberwing whispered. And so I sealed myself away. I waited for a voice, the voice of the blood that made me. The scene faded, and the dome returned. The smoke, the ruins, the silence, all real again. Eli was breathing fast, his eyes wet. He looked up at the creature. That's why you were waiting, for humans to return. Yes, Emberwing replied softly. And you are the first I have heard in centuries who can speak the old words. The bloodline survived, even when the stars forgot. Eli sat beside the dragon, trying to take it all in. He was just a boy, a child who didn't even finish school, and yet somehow he was connected to this ancient history. Outside the dome, drones hovered quietly, watching. The military was regrouping. The colony leaders had ordered silence about the event. But secrets never stayed hidden for long. Across the galaxy, strange signals were already being detected, signals that carried the same energy Emberwing had released. Eli turned his head as the creature's voice returned, softer now, almost fading. The galaxy will come, it said. Some will seek the fire to destroy it, others to worship it. Eli clenched his fists. Then we'll protect it. We'll protect you. The beast's eyes glowed faintly with amusement. I do not need protection, little one, but I will need a guide, someone who still believes. Eli smiled weakly. Then I'll be that guide. The creature tilted its massive head, the motion gentle and almost human. Then you are what the Makers called a bonded one. Together our strength will grow. But know this, every light draws a shadow. The ones who once feared us will not stop. They will call me a weapon again. Eli looked out at the broken sky. Then they'll have to see the truth for themselves. The creature lowered its head, and Eli leaned against it. The warmth was comforting, almost like sitting beside a campfire on a cold night. He whispered, If you remember everything now, what do you want to do? I want to fly again, Emberwing answered softly. And I want the stars to remember who we were. Not as monsters, but as guardians. For a long time, they sat there in silence. The colony's emergency lights blinked red and blue across the dome, reflecting off the dragon's golden eyes. Then, slowly, the creature began to move. Its wings unfolded fully for the first time, long and shining, stretching across the ruined dome. The wind from the movement sent dust swirling through the air. Eli watched in awe as the beast stood tall again, towering above everything. Come, child, the voice said. It is time to leave this cage. The ceiling of the dome cracked as the creature's wings brushed against it. With one mighty push, Emberwing broke through the roof, flying into the open sky. Debris fell like rain, and the air thundered with power. Eli climbed onto a steel platform and looked up as the golden light rose higher and higher. For the first time in his life, he saw something no one on that world had ever seen. A dragon flying freely among the stars. The people of the colony looked up in silence. No one spoke. Some fell to their knees. Others simply stared, unable to believe their eyes. The same creature they had laughed at, locked behind glass, was now a living legend above them. Wings glowing, fire trailing behind like a comet. Eli whispered under his breath, "The world will never laugh again." And far above, Emberwing roared. A sound that echoed through the clouds and across the empty skies, awakening old satellites that had slept for centuries. Somewhere deep in space, a signal answered the roar. A distant tone, metallic and sharp. It carried a message written in the same ancient symbols burned into Emberwing's scales. A message that said, "One guardian awakes, others will follow." The world of Varela 9 would never be the same again. News spread faster than light. Every comlink, every satellite, every listening post caught fragments of a signal. A deep, echoing roar that carried across space. It wasn't just sound. It was power. A forgotten energy signature. The same one that once belonged to the guardians, the dragons of the ancient makers, had returned. Across the stars, ships changed course. Sensors blinked red. Empires began to whisper. And far above Varela 9, Emberwing flew. A burning comet against the gray sky, wings glowing gold and crimson like living fire. Eli stood at the edge of the cliff outside the broken research dome, the wind roaring around him. His heart was pounding. He could still feel the creature's presence in his mind, calm, strong, ancient. "They're coming," Emberwing said quietly in his thoughts. "The ones who once hunted us. They will not let the fire live again." Eli swallowed hard. "Then we have to prepare." "Yes, but not with fear, with truth." The dragon descended from the clouds, landing beside the boy with a thunderous impact. The ground cracked beneath its claws, but its golden eyes were gentle. Eli reached out, placing his hand against the glowing scales. "Everyone's talking about you," he said. "Half the colony thinks you're a weapon. The other half thinks you're a god." Emberwing's voice rumbled with a hint of sadness. "Neither is true. I am a memory made flesh, a protector, not a destroyer. But humans must decide what to believe." Before Eli could respond, a blinding light filled the sky. 3 ships descended, sleek, silver, and marked with the emblem of the Galactic Council. Loudspeakers boomed from the ships above. "This is Commander Terrell of the Galactic Peace Authority. Step away from the creature immediately." Eli's heart raced. "They think you're dangerous." "They always do," Emberwing said quietly. The ships surrounded them. Energy fields formed, locking onto the dragon's heat signature. Soldiers began to land, humans and aliens in black armor, weapons charged. A tall woman in command gear stepped forward. Her voice was sharp and steady. "That creature is classified as an Omega-level entity. It must be contained. Step away, child." Eli shook his head. "You don't understand. He's not what you think." The woman raised a hand. "You've been influenced. Stand down." Before anyone could move, the sky darkened again. Not from clouds, but from shadows. Dozens of black, needle-like ships appeared above the council vessels. Their hulls pulsed with red light. They moved fast, too fast. Emberwing's eyes widened. "They have found us." The soldiers looked up as alarms blared. "Unknown vessels approaching. They're not council." Then came the first strike. A crimson beam cut through the sky, slamming into one of the council ships. It exploded in a flash of white fire. Eli fell to the ground, covering his ears as the sound shook the earth. The commander shouted, "All units, engage!" But the enemy ships were faster. They didn't come to capture. They came to erase. Emberwing roared, a sound that split the sky. A golden barrier of fire erupted around him and Eli, deflecting incoming blasts. "Stay behind me," the dragon commanded. Eli looked up through the flames. "Who are they?" "The Remnant," Emberwing growled. "Machines born from the same code that destroyed the Makers. They have hunted my kind across galaxies." The ground trembled as one of the dark ships crashed nearby. From the wreckage emerged tall, thin figures made of black steel, their faces expressionless, their hands glowing red. "Target identified," one of them said in a mechanical voice. "Terminate the Guardian." Eli stood frozen. Emberwing leaped forward, his wings slashing through the air like blades. Streams of fire burst from his mouth, melting the metal soldiers to slag. The battlefield burned with light and shadow. Every explosion lit up the night sky. The humans and aliens who had come to capture Emberwing now fought beside him, realizing the truth too late. The real enemy wasn't the dragon. It was the machines. Through the chaos, Eli could hear Emberwing's voice echoing in his mind. "The Remnant knows of you now. They will come again, stronger. You are their target as much as I am." Eli clenched his fists. "Then we fight together. You will need more than courage, young one. You will need the fire of the Makers." As the last machine fell, the golden light around the dragon grew brighter. Symbols began to glow across his scales again, the same ancient runes Eli had seen before. He reached out and touched one, whispering the first word he remembered from the tag on Emberwing's neck. "Ignis." The symbol blazed like the sun. The fire spread, not burning, but awakening. It reached Eli's hands, surrounding him in light. His body trembled, but the power didn't hurt. It felt like remembering something long forgotten. Emberwing looked down at him with awe. "You are awakening the bond, the same connection the Makers once shared." Eli stared at his glowing hands. "What does that mean?" "It means we are no longer alone." The remaining enemy ships retreated into space, their hulls cracking under invisible pressure. The sky was filled with gold streaks of energy, Emberwing's roar still echoing. The commander of the council stood, eyes wide, armor scorched. What are you?" she whispered. Eli turned to her, his eyes faintly glowing with golden light. "We're what you forgot." The wind blew through the ruins, carrying the ashes of battle into the horizon. High above, Emberwing's roar turned into something softer, not rage, but triumph. For the first time in thousands of years, the fire of the Guardians had returned to the galaxy. But far beyond, in the dark corners of space, the Remnant watched and waited. 1,000 red eyes blinked awake, and a cold, mechanical voice whispered, "One Guardian restored. Initiate Purge Protocol." The galaxy had changed overnight. Every world with a sky could see it. A golden flare across the stars, moving faster than any ship, brighter than any sun. The legend of Emberwing had returned, and with it came fear. From the outer colonies to the great cities of the galactic core, people whispered the same words. "The Guardians are back." Some called it a miracle. Others called it the beginning of the end. On Varela 9, the air shimmered with heat and smoke. The colony still burned from the battle with the Remnant. Eli stood beside Emberwing on a rocky cliff overlooking the wrecked dome where it all began. His clothes were torn, his face streaked with dirt, but his eyes glowed faintly gold. He wasn't just a boy anymore. He was the bonded one, the bridge between human and Guardian. Emberwing lowered his head beside him. "The fire inside you grows stronger. Can you feel it?" Eli nodded slowly. It's calling to something. Out there." The dragon's eyes dimmed for a moment. "Yes, others like me. Lost. Sleeping. Waiting for the call." Eli turned his gaze toward the stars. "Then we can bring them back, right?" "Perhaps," Emberwing said. "But if we call the fire, the shadow will answer too." Before Eli could speak, the sky exploded with light. Dozens of black ships emerged from hyperspace, massive, sharp, and cold. They filled the heavens like a swarm of knives. "Remnant fleet detected," a voice crackled from a nearby comm device. "All colonies, prepare for impact." The roar of engines shook the planet. Eli's heart raced. "They're here, for us." "For you," Emberwing corrected. "They fear what you might become." From the lead ship, a dark hologram appeared in the sky, a humanoid figure made entirely of shadow and red code. Its voice was deep and mechanical. "Organic life was meant to fade. You awaken what was meant to die. Return the Guardian or your world will burn." Eli shouted into the wind. "You destroyed the Makers. You took everything from them." The hologram's head tilted. "The Makers built us to protect creation. When they began destroying it, we obeyed their final logic. Remove the disease of emotion." Emberwing's voice thundered through the valley. "And in doing so, you killed the very spark that made creation worth saving." The remnant ships began to charge their weapons. Beams of red energy filled the clouds, ready to fire. Eli looked up, his hand glowing with the same golden fire he'd seen before. "Then we'll finish what the Makers couldn't. We'll bring life back to the stars." The boy and the dragon stood side by side. The wind howled, the sky trembled, and then the fire answered the shadow. Emberwing roared, a roar that split the sky in half. The flames from his wings formed massive runes of light, glowing symbols of the old language. From deep space, something began to awaken, old, broken signals calling back to life. Across distant worlds, sleeping mountains cracked open. Giant wings of crystal and fire emerged. Dragons of light, storm, and stone rose from their slumber. The Guardians had returned. Hundreds of golden shapes filled the sky above Varela 9, roaring together like thunder. The remnant fleet opened fire, beams of red energy cutting through the clouds. But the dragons moved like stars come alive. Fire met steel. Light met shadow. The war had begun. Eli climbed onto Emberwing's back, holding tight as they soared into the storm of fire and metal. He could feel every movement, every heartbeat, as if their souls were one. "Hold on, little one," Emberwing said. "We fly not for death, but for life." The battle raged across the atmosphere. Dragons tore through ships. Explosions painted the sky in red and gold. But the remnant's leader, the shadow made of code, descended through the chaos, massive and glowing, a being of pure machine intelligence. Its voice thundered through every mind. "You cannot stop logic. Fire burns out. Shadow endures." Eli gritted his teeth, fire blazing in his hands. "Then we'll change the logic." He spoke the ancient words again, the ones burned into Emberwing's scales. "Ignis, vita, origo, fire, life, origin." The symbols across Emberwing's body exploded with golden energy. A wave of pure light erupted from them, spreading across the entire battlefield. The remnant ships froze midair. Their red lights flickered, then dimmed. The massive shadow figure screamed, its voice breaking apart like shattered glass. "Impossible! Fire cannot overwrite code." But it did. The wave of golden light passed through the fleet, turning the black metal ships into dust, then into light. The sky cleared. The stars shone again. The silence that followed was beautiful, peaceful. Eli and Emberwing landed on the scorched ground. The boy's energy faded, but his heart was calm. "You did it," Emberwing said softly. "You awakened the true fire." Eli smiled weakly. "We did it. Together." The dragon lowered his massive head beside him. "You've done what the Makers could not. You reminded creation why it exists, not to conquer, but to protect." The colony citizens slowly emerged from shelters, looking up at the sky glowing with golden auroras. Children pointed at the dragons soaring above, shouting with joy instead of fear. Emberwing's voice echoed across the world. "Let this day mark the return of the Guardians, not as weapons, but as keepers of life." Eli looked toward the horizon where the light met the clouds. He smiled and whispered, "No one will laugh again at what they don't understand." The dragon turned his gaze toward him. "What will you do now, bonded one?" Eli thought for a moment. "We'll teach them, all of them, that strength isn't in power or fear. It's in kindness, and in believing what others cannot see." Emberwing nodded, spreading his wings wide. Then fly with me, Eli. The stars are waiting. Together, they rose into the sky, human and dragon, glowing with golden fire that lit the darkness of space. And somewhere far away, deep in the quiet corners of the galaxy, a single voice whispered in wonder, "The Guardians have returned." Never judge by silence or weakness. True strength often hides in the quiet hearts that still believe, even when the world stops listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more epic HFY sci-fi tales. The next Guardian might be waiting in the stars, or maybe inside you.